Good morning. And today, I want to tell you something that many people do not hear often enough after the age of 75. Some of the clearest signs that you are aging well have nothing to do with what shows up on a lab report. Not first. They show up in the hallway of your home, in the way you get out of a chair, in whether you can carry a bag without thinking twice, in whether you still make plans for next month as though your life is still fully yours. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Because when older adults are asked what they want most from the years ahead, the answer is not simply more years. A 2025 national survey found that 78% of adults age 65 and older would choose independence over a longer life dependent on others, not comfort without control, not longevity without self-sufficiency, independence. And yet here is the painful contradiction. Even though most seniors say their health matters deeply, only about 40% make healthy eating and exercise a real priority. That gap, the gap between what we want and what we actually do, is where independence is either protected or quietly lost. What I have seen again and again is that the seniors who remain capable deep into their late 70s and 80s usually give themselves away in small moments, not dramatic moments, ordinary ones, the kind of moments most people overlook until they are no longer easy. And before we get into the list, let me tease something important. The number one sign is not about fitness in the usual sense. It is not about walking farther, lifting heavier, or eating more vegetables, though all of those matter. It is something quieter, more psychological, more revealing, and in many ways, more powerful. So stay with me until the end, because that last one may change how you think about aging altogether. And before we begin, I would love to hear from you. Leave your age in the comments below and tell me which of these 7 things you still do comfortably today. I read those comments carefully, and they help shape everything we talk about on this channel. Now, let's count down from number 7 to number 1. Number 7, you still walk with purpose, not just movement. I want you to notice the wording there. Not merely that you can walk, but that you still walk with intention, with rhythm, with enough confidence that your body moves forward instead of negotiating with every step. Because walking speed is not a trivial detail in older age. It is one of the most revealing measurements we have. A major pooled analysis published through JAMA and available on PubMed Central looked at 34,485 older adults across 9 cohort studies and found that gait speed was strongly associated with survival. In fact, gait speed predicted survival about as accurately as far more complicated health models involving chronic disease history, blood pressure, body weight, and hospitalization. Think about that. How fast you walk down a short stretch of floor can tell us something profound about how the rest of your body is functioning. Why? Because walking is not just about legs. It is about heart function, lung function, blood flow, nerve signaling, balance, joint integrity, confidence, reaction time, and brain coordination all working together in one single act. A purposeful walk is a full-body health report in motion. The findings were striking. At age 75, predicted 10-year survival varied enormously across walking speeds, from 19% to 87% in men and from 35% to 91% in women, and gait speeds of 1.0 meters per second or higher consistently showed survival better than expected for age and sex alone. That is not just walking. That is resilience made visible, and it gets even more practical. The National Institute on Aging points to research showing that adults who took 8,000 steps a day, compared with 4,000, had a 51% lower risk of death. So when I say walking with purpose matters, I do not mean strolling absent-mindedly from one room to another. I mean choosing every day to remind your body that it is still expected to move you through life. If this is already you, if you still walk with a steady pace, if you still go to the store, down the driveway, around the block, or through the garden without that hesitant shuffle that says the system is powering down, that is a very good sign. A very good sign. Number 6, you can still rise from a chair without your body arguing back. This sounds simple until it is not. The ability to go from sitting to standing is one of those movements that people do not respect until it starts slipping away. But once it does, independence can unravel surprisingly fast. One study described the ability to rise from sitting to standing as a prerequisite for functional independence. And Johns Hopkins identifies trouble standing without assistance as one of the warning signs of frailty. Frailty is not just a word doctors throw around casually, it is one of the clearest pathways toward loss of autonomy in older adults. Johns Hopkins notes that frailty affects roughly 7% to 12% of Americans 65 and older, rising from about 1 in 25 people ages 65 to 74 to 1 in 4 people older than 84. Their researchers also found that frailty doubles the risk of surgical complications and can increase the odds of losing independence after surgery by as much as 20-fold. 20-fold. That is the kind of number that should make everyone pause, because getting out of a chair is not merely about leg strength, it reflects hip power, core stability, coordination, confidence, and the reserve capacity that lets you recover when life demands something sudden from you. A slippery bathroom floor, a missed step on the porch, a low couch at a family gathering, a seat in a waiting room that is just a little lower than you expected. The seniors aging better than most are often the ones who do not hesitate in those moments. They lean forward, they engage the legs, they stand, not dramatically, naturally. If you can still do that without needing to pull yourself up every time, that tells me your lower body is still fighting for you. And if it has become harder, that does not mean you are finished. It means this is an area that deserves your attention now, not a year from now, not after a fall, not after a hospitalization, now. Number 5, you still have enough grip strength to carry your life. I want you to think about everything your hands quietly do for your independence. Opening jars, carrying groceries, lifting a laundry basket, holding a railing, turning a key, managing a pill bottle, getting yourself out of bed, catching yourself if you trip. Your hands are doing far more than holding things. They are expressing the condition of your entire system. A review on grip strength in older adults concluded that grip strength is a powerful biomarker linked to general function, falls, fractures, nutritional status, cognition, sleep, depression, hospital outcomes, and mortality. One meta-analysis in that review found that every 5-kilogram reduction in grip strength was associated with a 16% higher risk of all-cause mortality. That is not a hand issue, that is a whole-body warning light. The same review also described how lower grip strength predicts future difficulty with rising from a chair, dressing, bathing, walking, and heavy housework. In other words, weak grip often appears before people fully understand how much physical reserve they are losing. And, perhaps most interesting of all, grip strength is not just about muscle. It also reflects how well the nervous system is driving that muscle. That is why it has been linked to cognition as well. So if you can still carry your own bags, if you can still hold on to a railing with confidence, if your handshake still feels like it belongs to a person who is present, steady, and fully engaged with the world, that matters. It matters more than many seniors have ever been told. Because one of the quiet tragedies of aging is that people often notice weakness only after it begins interfering with daily life. But the body almost always whispers before it screams. Grip strength is one of those whispers. Number 4, you still challenge your balance instead of avoiding it. Let me say something plainly. Balance is not luck. It is not a gift handed to a few fortunate people in their 80s while everyone else simply loses it. Balance is a skill. A trainable skill, and when older adults stop challenging it, it starts disappearing. The National Council on Aging reports that 1 in 4 older adults falls every year, 1 in 4, and the CDC emphasizes that adults 65 and older need activities that improve balance. Not just walking, not just chores, not just general movement, balance specifically. That is because balance is one of the last things people think to train and one of the first things they desperately wish they had protected. And here is what makes this so important. The CDC also notes that some brain benefits from physical activity begin right after a session of moderate to vigorous movement, not next year, not after 6 months, right after. That means your body is constantly listening for instruction. When you stand on one foot near a counter, when you practice heel-to-toe walking, when you strengthen the hips and legs, when you teach your body to stabilize instead of sway, you are not just exercising, you are teaching the nervous system to respond faster, coordinate better, and protect you when something unpredictable happens. That is what balance really is, not elegance, recovery. The seniors who age well are often not the ones who never wobble. They are the ones whose body still knows what to do when they do. And if you still move in a way that suggests trust, if you can turn, reach, step over something, or change direction without that immediate fear response, that is a sign of preserved function worth respecting. Before we go further, if this video is helping you, take a second and subscribe to Wellness Phase. Every week, we focus on the practical, science-backed realities of aging well, especially the ones too many people are never told clearly enough. And if you know someone in their 70s or 80s who needs this kind of information, share this video with them today. Now, number 3, you do not ignore changes in hearing and vision. This one is constantly underestimated. Many older adults accept sensory decline as if it is a minor inconvenience, something cosmetic, something to put off, a stronger lamp, a louder television, a little more guessing in conversation. But the National Institute on Aging is very clear that treating hearing and vision loss matters for cognitive health. They also emphasize reducing falls and addressing medications that can affect memory, sleep, and brain function. Why does this matter so much? Because when hearing becomes harder, the brain has to work overtime just to decode speech. When vision becomes less reliable, the brain has to compensate for uncertainty in space, contrast, depth, and movement. And when both begin to slide, the world gets harder to interpret safely. That creates a chain reaction. People withdraw from conversations because they cannot follow them easily. They stop going out at night because glare and poor depth perception make it stressful. They miss steps, misread labels, confuse instructions, avoid phone calls, and slowly become less engaged with the very world that helps keep them cognitively alive. So if you are still the kind of person who takes sensory changes seriously, who gets the hearing checked, updates the glasses, improves the lighting in the home, asks whether a medication may be clouding your mind, that is not vanity. That is protection. That is strategy. That is an older adult refusing to let a treatable problem masquerade as inevitable decline. And I can tell you this from experience. Many people think they are getting old when in reality they are getting undercorrected. There is a difference, a very important difference. Number 2, you are still genuinely involved with other people, not merely surrounded by them. This is where aging becomes more than biological. It becomes relational. The National Institute on Aging emphasizes staying connected with family, friends, and neighbors as part of protecting cognitive health. Harvard Health points to social connection as a major support for neuroplasticity and mental sharpness, and Healthy People 2030 warns that social isolation and loneliness are associated with a higher risk of dementia and other serious health problems. But I want to make an important distinction here. Passive company is not the same as engagement. Having the television on in the background is not engagement. Sitting quietly in the same room as someone is not necessarily engagement. Even seeing people does not always count if your mind is not involved. What protects the aging brain is active connection, conversation, humor, storytelling, listening, disagreeing, remembering, planning, asking questions, feeling needed, feeling seen. Johns Hopkins even notes that older volunteers who tutor children can sharpen their own thinking and improve physical functioning. Think about how remarkable that is. A person helps someone else learn, and in the process, their own mind and body benefit. That is not sentimental. That is biology with meaning attached to it. The seniors who often age best are not always the busiest, but they are usually still participating. Someone expects them, someone relies on them, someone calls them. They still have a role to play. And that role does something medicine alone cannot do. It tells the brain and the body you are still needed here. If you still make the call, show up for lunch, check on a neighbor, help with a grandchild, serve at church, join the group, or stay mentally present in conversation. That is one of the strongest signs that you are protecting more than mood. You are protecting identity. And now, number one, the most powerful sign of all, you still make plans for a future you expect to live in. This is the one almost nobody talks about enough, because when people think about healthy aging, they tend to think about muscles, memory, diet, steps, sleep, blood pressure. And yes, all of those matter deeply. But there is another sign, quieter and often more revealing than all of them. Future orientation. Do you still make appointments for months ahead? Do you still commit to a family event next season? Do you still plan a project, a garden, a trip, a repair, a class, a holiday dinner, a birthday gathering, a room to reorganize, a corner of life you intend to improve? That matters. The National Institute on Aging says the best time to plan how to stay independent at home is before you need significant care. JAMA Network Open published research showing that purpose in life declines before cognitive impairment and then falls 3 to 4 times faster after impairment begins. That tells us something profound. Purpose does not merely decorate life, it helps structure it. A person who still plans is a person who still sees themselves inside tomorrow. That is executive function. That is hope. That is self-direction. That is emotional resilience. That is the mind saying, I am not finished with my life. I am still in conversation with the future. And I have found that older adults who keep this quality, even in very humble ways, often hold on to independence longer than expected, not because planning is magic, because planning changes behavior. People who plan tend to follow up. They make the primary care appointment, they improve the lighting in the hallway, they prepare the meals, they say yes to the event next month, they organize transportation, they maintain the home, they stay connected, they keep themselves in motion, they continue participating in their own life. That may be the most underappreciated form of healthy aging there is, not pretending age does not exist, not denying difficulty, but refusing to surrender authorship. If you still live that way, if there is still something on your calendar that belongs to you, something ahead that you care about, something you expect yourself to be present for, then I want you to understand how meaningful that is. That is not a small thing. That is one of the clearest signs that your body and mind are still working together in the service of independence. So let me bring this together. If you still walk with purpose, rise from a chair with control, carry your life in your hands, challenge your balance, protect your hearing and vision, stay actively connected to other people, and make plans for a future you still expect to live in, then you are showing signs of aging better than most people realize. Not perfectly, not permanently, but meaningfully, and that is what matters. Because aging well after 75 is not about pretending you are 45. It is about preserving the functions that allow life to remain yours. Your choices, your routines, your conversations, your errands, your memories, your dignity, your independence. All of the scientific references behind today's video can be placed in the description, and I encourage you to read them and share them with someone you love. And let me leave you with this. Too many people speak about the late 70s and 80s as if life has already narrowed to maintenance and decline, but that is not the full story, not even close. The research says more is still modifiable than people assume. The body still responds. The brain still adapts. Habits still matter. Purpose still matters. Challenge still matters. Connection still matters. And sometimes the best sign that someone is aging well is not that they look young. It is that they are still fully participating in their own life. If you are not subscribed to Wellness Phase yet, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss these weekly conversations. And now I want to hear from you. Leave your age in the comments and tell me which of these 7 signs still feels strongest in your life right now. I will be reading. And as always, take very good care of yourself. You are worth that care.